Hello, hello, hello. This is Kunal, aka Chip. Thanks for tuning in. This is my last video of 2025. It's been a long time. I haven't been creating any more videos. It was just not because I didn't want to, because it's just more focusing on the application and the things that I'm working on uh, separately as well. You may have seen my previous LinkedIn post about that as well. But today we're not going to talk about that. Uh, the purpose of this video is obviously we have seen 2025 was a nice year. It was a good year, let's just say, in relation to cybersecurity side of things, but personally as well, professionally as well, of course. And uh, I wanted to make this video uh, as a self awareness or a self reflection video for who is listening, right? It is for me as well. And hopefully 2026 comes with some good things, happy things, well wishes, of course. And yeah, Merry Christmas to everybody, belated, of course. If you're listening in 2025, if it's still 31st December on your side, then Happy New Year in advance. If today is 2026 for you, Happy New Year and well wishes. Um, so, where this particular one is what actually mattered in 2025 and what we pretended to learn in 2025. So, yes, 2025 is almost over, right? Which means, hey, congratulations. We survived another year of uh, unprecedented, maybe that's, I don't know whether the accent is okay or not, but a lot of cybersecurity incidents and data breaches. Uh, there were multiple incidents. There was a breach, then there was another breach, then an article titled something like, or like I've been guilty of writing some of them as well. So, what does this breach means to you, or what does it mean for the community or for the industry? And hello, spoiler is there are just more articles on it, and that's where I want to focus on today is breaking news, another breach. What happens? Uh, well, yeah, if we talk about by about March or let's say April this year, like breaches were no longer shocking, right? And, I'm not going to name any ones because that's not the purpose of this particular one. They were, but what I felt was they were more like weather updates. Oh, look, another one. Is it big? Yeah. If it runs away, did they pay? We don't know. Probably. Who knows? Cool. Let's have our meeting at 2 o'clock. Now let's call on all our executives and let's have a meeting about it and see what we can do. Are we impacted? Is it relevant for us? So and so forth. And that was the tone of 2025, isn't it? Right. And in my opinion, we were learning like a machine. It was like a system that we got used to, right? And that was what you're seeing at incident articles, panels, LinkedIn posts, or sorry, some blogs, and we just moved on. But here it's what actually happened every single time. And definitely you can put in your comments or you can have a self reflection whether this was actually true for you or not. But an incident, then articles explaining it, there was a panel discussion, then community chat messengers like Signal, WhatsApp, or Slack, or whatever it may be, including LinkedIn, social media as well. They were all filled up with thoughtful reflections. Someone would write, as a community, we must do better. Okay, cool. Sometimes I have done that as well. So sorry for that. Another person would reply, great insights, something that I would really be looking forward to doing it. Then quietly, someone just said the most honest sentence in the cybersecurity. Good thing it wasn't us. And I'm sure you have, maybe you have not posted in LinkedIn, but you have replayed in your brains, or you must have said something internally to yourself. And just like that, we just moved on, isn't it? And that's where we want to focus on when we move on. Obviously, there is some kind of what did we learn from it? Did we right? And that's one of the things in the past, like the content machine that we talk about, or the system that, or the cycle that we are in. They're just, I would say, it's not an exception, right? It just ended up like a system. And if we learn from it, it actually sits in lesson learned, a lot of post incident reports, or your meetings, or your coffee luncheons, or whatever it may be. There is always lesson learned, right? So let us talk about lessons learned, right? And it's also, we know it's just part of the process of post incident review as well, and incident response. It's very known fact. And every incident, every cybersecurity incidents, to be specific, or every data breach in 2025 obviously had some lessons, right? Beautiful lessons, well formatted lessons, nicely in some slides, and sometimes color coded lessons as well. Uh, it's just how presentation is obviously always great. And honestly, I have personally sat in, or I've drafted those PIRs uh, in the past, and throughout my uh, corporate journey, uh, done some reviews as a SOC analyst, whatever it may be. Let's not drill into it, but in all those post-incident reviews where someone said, or myself said, we need to improve visibility. Obviously, everybody loves logging. Oh, we can't see that. Our we didn't have logs, and I heard that so many times. We need to improve visibility, and that was the lesson. Not how, not where, just just plain simple vibes. And that's where, like, as you can see, the title is just lesson learned, but it's just allegedly, like, what I realized, we are not learning. I think we are just doing narration, like we are narrating. Explaining an incident feels productive, of course. You have to explain. But fixing the root cause, I realized it was very awkward. Many times it has been expensive, or it was expensive, and usually owned by someone who is not in the room. Yes, it does happen. And so instead of that, how do we explain? Like, we explain instead is, how do we going to fix it? Lesson learn. And that's where a very important wording just came to be is, yes, you're right, risk. uh, right, it is, it, at the end of it always ends up as a risk, right? A lesson learned, we will capture this, and we'll update the risk register, give this individual responsibility, or hold them accountable to fix that, and it's done. So that's why we'll capture this as a risk. Um, if I uh, want to focus on, or just give a real example, is, let's say an organization gets hit or has a data breach. We knew about the initial access, control gap was very clear, and fix was very obvious. But the fix meant downtime, meaning turn off the system, so doing something like that. And so instead, the decision was, we will capture this as a risk. And it continues. And I have seen in many organizations, or when I read PIRs, or when I read vendor reports coming out, they said, like, or SEC reports that have been filed in US as well. Um, a good information, which, by the way, in that is, they were aware of this, but they just, I wouldn't say ignored. They made a decision to accept the risk, because I believe, or based on what I hear from them, the loss uh, occurred during, or occurred during, an incident is acceptable than the loss of system being down, because at the end of the day it's all business, right? If the system is down or a system is down for a while, it directly impacts maybe business, and then obviously it depends on the systems, of course, as well, right? But sometimes they just don't want to do it. And that sentence ended up as a discussion. I mean, like the sentence of we'll capture this as a risk, it will just end up as a discussion. And I wouldn't say that they accepted this risk because they don't care. uh, but I believe just entering something in the risk register is much more cheaper than doing actual change, and much more convenient. And I think this still happens, like, and throughout the 2025 it will continue to do so. And this is what I have seen. And can we make a change in 2026? I'm not sure. uh, right. And while the risk is still there, uh, then the next step what I've also noticed is, hello, think now you know what the another big buzzword is, the compliance. It enters, yes, it's very important. And at any time major incident occurs or data breaches occurs, governments intervene, they react, of course. Boards definitely ask questions to their team, to senior management, so on and so forth. Regulatory barriers suddenly appear, regulations gets expanded, more frameworks. On paper security improved, in reality it doesn't. And because of this so much compliance frameworks, the security just ends up being a paperwork. Right. And that's where one of the things, like, we need to ask this question is, are we secure? No. But are we compliant? Yes, of course, because compliance means you can do business. And I have watched teams pass audits, right? You have seen many organizations, right? There's so many audits going on. And then ask a question like, okay, if they are continuing to do the business, of course they are compliant, right? But how can these threat actors pass straight through that environment? Right? Very simple. And I'm not saying compliance is bad, right? In no way. It is a necessary thing. But we need to understand compliance is just a check. It is there like a check box, right? And if we want to convert that into from the threat actor's perspective, they don't care about these check boxes, right? They The threat actors are more about assumptions, and how our decisions or how our accepting the risk successfully or gave them opportunity to actually be able to uh, get into our system or take over accounts or whatever it is. The successful of threat actors is our failure of or our success of being compliant rather than being secure. And in 2025, for me, I believe the assumptions were plentiful. Threat actors just assume that, or we just assume that this risk is acceptable. It's not going to impact. But hey, finally it came. And I see that's not the only reason, right? But uh, it is still in our control to be able to fix it. Also, at times, I have seen uh, during an incident response reports on as well, like many times they end up saying we actually knew what to do, right? Because that's why you create a risk. And when you accept it, it means you're choosing not to do something, uh, right? And that's important, because I know it's an uncomfortable truth. We all do that. uh, was it skills or was it time um, of your engineers or your people that was the reason that you were not able to fix something? uh, we don't know. And I think any incidents, if we look into it, like for me, now, obviously I don't know each and every aspect of it, because whenever the vendor report comes, there are times they don't tell every they don't tell you everything. But what I have always realized, it was not a skills problem. I didn't also notice that it was due to a missing tool, or it was at a tooling problem. Right. And I highly doubt it was a knowledge problem. Uh, right. Because if you're compliant, if you knew about this, it means, uh, or if you have raised a risk about it, means somebody somewhere has not. It's like a drink is spilled on the floor. Somebody must have called it out. Right. It's normal. And that's where I think it was not a skills problem, as I mentioned before. But one of the things that the question we knew what to do, but we just chose not to do. Right? We, like, take an example. We knew MFA was needed fixing, or MFA had an overall. We allowed all kinds of MFA available, for example, or we knew there was a legacy systems. They were open. For our third party contracts to be accessed from anywhere in the world. We knew about it. We knew about our alert fatigue. That analyst is, we don't have enough people to respond to alerts. We knew all everything, but we did not have the permission, or nobody agreed to actually fix it. We just accepted the risk, because it was inconvenient for a business, or inconvenient for an individual team, or inconvenient for a single person. And that's why we just accepted the loss instead, rather than to be able to fix, because, well, fixing obviously comes with one. And when you don't do this, it's like Newton's law, that there is action and reaction. That means whenever there is an action, there has to be some kind of reaction, right? And this failed decisions, or when you're accepting the risk or accepting any kind of losses, for example, somebody will pay the price. And whether there is a security teams, or your customers, or somebody that has someone paid for that decision. And I'm not saying about an actual quantitative dollars, but there has to be, or there must be, that impact has resonated or went to downstream, and it always goes downstream, right? And many times, if we talk about organization, that impact goes on security teams, where, if your previous example, you just hire more people, or they just end up working extra hours, or end up working during weekends. Incident responders are just living in war rooms, right? Senior management, or SOC leaders, or security leaders, or let's say head of security operations. So whatever it may be, they are just balancing optics and reality, and obviously there is management expectations as well. And they are the ones who will be absorbed by the risk, or absorb the risk itself. Like, we ask people to compensate for our structural weaknesses, right? Like, it meaning incident occur, we knew it was this, like, or the API was exposed, but then it ends up into people. Let's have more people. Let's do this. Let's hire more people. Or can we just fix it right away? You have 2 weeks to fix it, right? So we are compensating people, because there was some kind of structural weaknesses to it. And when things gets broke, we asked why they did not respond faster, right? And honestly, I would say that response gets slower because there is exhaustion. Uh, because initially they didn't hear them, but now they want to fix it, and that this exhaustion is impacting something that everybody wants to be, is resilience as well, right? Because if we are not going to respond faster, we are not resilient, right? And so we have to think. Again, I just want to repeat myself: is when things broke, we asked why they did not respond faster, which is not resilience, right? This is the which is not resilience. It is due to there is exhaustion, and when these are the things happened, or whatever I just mentioned about exhaustion, compliance, and risk, and to be resilient, right? What should we do, right? What actually mattered, right? It's the why, the purpose of like is are we saying that only cyber security or actual incidents will help us to improve, will help us to be resilient? And in 2025, like for me, if I just recollect or how it well is like for me, what mattered was obviously not the breaches, not the malware, not the threat actors, not the new ransomware families that came up. For me, what actually mattered was our behavior. Like you may have seen my earlier or some of the blogs that I write about is how can we improve as a human being as well, and how are we going to practice the cybersecurity. Uh, and what I've realized is all our risk acceptance was normalized. Uh, we rewarded explanations instead of execution or implementations. Explanation is like just writing a nice PIR report. And we measured our activity instead of outcome, right? So many reports I've seen is we only measure the actual activities, this many incidents, this is how we responded. So, but what was the outcome of it, right? And that was missing as well. And these are the things that threat actors noticed, right? Because they can see exact information what's out there. Like all vendors write really nice articles. Myself, I was they are watching everything, right? It's not that they are living in completely separate internet and they don't have access to it, right? When there's something happens, they learn from it, right? And this something has to be done, like because if we are going to continue, I think the 2026 will be exactly same, and we have to think about what are we willing to change uh, as we head into 2026. For me, at least, one of the big question for me is yes, obviously, what are we willing to change? That's the same question that I want to ask. Uh, Not the framework we will adopt, like any framework you can pick up from your wine. Not what report will be published, but focus on the decision. What decisions we will make when security becomes inconvenient? How fast can we make this decision? Because at that moment is where cybersecurity actually lives, isn't it? If you are going to make a sound decision, evidence based, fast enough to be able to prioritize cybersecurity, yeah, the business is important, like CIA, that of course, but that decision is very important, right? And as I always say, cybersecurity isn't just a practice, it's a reflection of a character, right? And 2025 is something to reflect upon. And I think if we look at it in a way of lessons learned, it showed us something important, isn't it? Like it does not fail because we lack intelligence, or like we are not failing because we don't know about something, or our team doesn't know about something. I think it fails when accountability stops at a slide deck or it stops at a report. And until we change that, I think the breaches or data breaches or incidents will keep coming, and we'll be in the same loop. The articles will keep flowing, the lessons learned will keep being learned, it's in past tense, of course, right? And we have to change our behavior. And that's it. Hopefully, what I mentioned is clear enough. Repeat that in your mind. You can replay this video if you want. You can reach out to me. Have obviously, I would love some comments as well. What are your thoughts in regards to what I just mentioned? And yes, hopefully you have great 2025 end of year. If you're in Australia, enjoy the fireworks. Actually, anybody in the world can enjoy the fireworks. They're one of the best ones. And hopefully 2026 is a good year, positive for all of us. Not the threat actors, please. uh, Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Be safe.